Hi, everybody. Chad Westport here, and we're back with another episode of Just One Thing. And we've got a pretty special grower with us today, someone you've probably seen around the community dispensing a lot of wonderful information for growers. Today, we've got Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle TV. How you doing, Rob?
Pretty good, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no worries, man. My pleasure. I love the information that you give out. I've been a big fan of it and a viewer as well. So that's why I wanted to get you on here to talk to new growers, because I know you have some great information for them. So what is your just one thing that you wanted, or that you think all new growers should know about?
Oh, well, I appreciate the kind words, brother. When it comes down to something for me, the end product is a big deal. I see a lot of green plants, vibrant plants look good, buds look decent, but then the end product, I hear people complain about cucumber smell or having the hay or even the ammonia smell. And it really boils down to that dry and cure process. And it seems like it's overlooked often. People just want to get right to that flower quick. So they'll speed dry or they'll ignorantly dry, and they don't get the process done to get the proper herb they need. And for me, I like flavor. Terpenes and flavonoids are probably my biggest focus to start. But after it's ready, that's when I cut the plant. And for me personally, I go whole plant, and I do have the space to do it, so it works out. If you're doing a perpetual grow, you don't have the space to necessarily dry like that. You may have to go branch by branch, but I still say hang dry your plant as much as you can, usually about 7 to 10 days. And the room is about 70 degrees at the most. I try to keep it at the highest, and humidity around 60% for the most part. Now, depending on where you live and depending on the cultivar you have, it may vary. So if you have like a big bud, if people still grow that, or some big, thick, dense buds, you really, really, really need to watch that humidity, because it can get to the point where you ruin your flower before you even get to that curing process. With what I grow, pretty much more of a sativa dominance and not the most giant dense buds. So I can usually run with it, like I said, at 60% humidity, 70 degrees on average. 7 days usually is what it takes. From there, I don't take anything off there but the main fan leaves, and then I'll trim dry afterwards. So just the big fan leaves is the only thing I remove. Otherwise, it's got your tighter, triked out leaves, we'll say. So at that point, then I trim it and I cut them down in individual pieces, and that's when they're going to the jar. As long as it's feeling like, I'd say 80% dry, 90% dry, like it's dry, but if you squeeze it, there's a little something in there. That's when I'll consider putting it in the jar. It may even still sit out in like a box, literally just out and open for another day or two, just in case. Sometimes I get a little paranoid if I'm putting in a bud that's a little too close to being that point of moist. It could be an issue. Like I'm not into it. And that's a big reason why the hang dry is a big focus for me usually. But you'll notice that the color kind of changes a little bit depending on the flower. If you've got very green bud, it'll look lime green, and then it'll start to darken off and get a little more pine green, so to speak, when it's dried up more. You'll notice also your leaves, if you still have some on there, will start to curl around the flower a little bit. And you usually see that after 2 days, but this is different. It looks like they're almost decaying around it, like a shell forming. And at that point, then I'm like, okay, she's about ready. No, those leaves may be real dry and the internal part of the bud isn't. So that's the part you have to really check on. Denser bud is going to take longer, of course. Airier bud, it may dry up in 4 or 5 days. So keep an eye on that too. Same side, too airy or very airy, or too dense or very dense, so to speak. You got to keep more focus on that, because it could go one way or the other. If it takes too long to dry, even at that point, you want a slower dry, of course, but if it takes too long to dry, I've seen before where it's almost 30 days and the humidity in the room continuously keeps on increasing and you can't dial that in. I feel like you never get that cucumber lack of terp, the cucumber smell out of there, the chlorophyll. And it's a real issue. Same with drying too fast. You get to that point, you're going to end up trapping it in there. I've got people I know who will use a small heater next to their drying area that's dry heat. And it's could be beneficial depending on where you're at. But in this case, usually it dries it out too quick on the outside of the flower. Inside is still moist, and it's like it traps in that chlorophyll and it never gets the terpenes that you smelled on the plant. so to speak. In this case, in this room in particular, I have an older bathroom that doesn't have a bathroom in it anymore, but it used to. And I'm able to just hang the entire plant in there. Usually I'll have 4 plants at a time I'll pull, and they could just hang in there. What I do actually is I have just an eye hook, and then I take a bamboo stake, and then I like pull the plants by branches across it. So they're hanging just on there like that. And then I have a fan that's blowing against the wall, actually, like it's not even hitting the plants. And it just keeps circulation in the room. It's nothing's directly on the plants itself. Because again, I don't want it to dry too fast. Slower is better for sure in that case. But then once you're in the jar, it's, I'd say, again, it's subjective, how long you're going to cure for. Me, 2 weeks on average, usually at least 2 weeks before I even smoke it. Like sometimes I'll get a little sample if it's real terpy, but usually 2 weeks on average. So I'm a classic jar guy, and I know there's a lot of debate in the community. People will claim there's other options, like certain bags are better. I've got a friend who swears by turkey bags, and I swear he just watches rat videos and thinks that that's cool. I don't know what he's doing. You need to fix it, bro, if you're watching. But the jars do still work. I try to avoid any plastic containers. You see a lot of commercial grows using some plastic containers, and I think that is just not the best option in terms of the moisture evaporation. You'll notice, like, you'll feel, depending on when you put your bud in the jar, obviously, you could feel around the jar and you may feel a little bit of moisture once you're going to that burping process, which would be opening up your jar and emptying out that flower. And I don't see that with plastic. And I've done that before with a large plastic container when I had a big harvest with a lock and lid style one, which is good for like long-term storage, but not curing, so to speak. So with the jar, I'll usually go 75%, maybe 50% in terms of filling it. I don't want it too full. I want to leave enough air in there. So I can shake it up a little bit, and then I'll pour the flower out into a shoebox or a box, let it sit there maybe for 5-10 minutes, put it back in. I'll do this usually twice a day for 2 weeks. And then after that, it's more pulling from the jar when I'm going to smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and you drop some gold bars there, because one thing that I don't hear people talk about enough is during that burping process is actually emptying the jar, because everything on the bottom is going to have more moisture than what's on the top.
Yeah, I think it's mandatory. Again, like in order to get the even cure, even dry, you have to have it evenly treated. You know, what's stuck in the bottom, again, that's where it's all landing on top of each other. It's condensed down, and that moisture is going to be trapped in more. I think it's a common misconception that just opening the jar is burping it. Don't waste all of that time and effort, and especially the potential of the flower that you have. You want to get the maximum characteristics of the flower you have, and you won't know if you don't do things right. It's like if you have a recipe and you decide to skip a crucial step, you know, you just can't. You can't do that. It's not the way you have good food, not the way you have good bud.
I definitely appreciate your time today and coming and telling everybody a little bit about the drying and curing process. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in there, or maybe something I didn't let you get to?
Maybe one thing of the giant colas. Some people like to have those big colas to show off. I think in that case, just be prepared for a longer drying cure. You're sometimes better off to cut them down to smaller buds, not tiny buds like some people will do, but smaller buds so they can evenly dry. It just won't work if you've got these gigantic, monster hand buds. So you got to figure that part out too. It may look good, but performance is key.
I want to let people know where they can find you. And again, everybody, these will be down in the show notes. So one of the main YouTube channels that you have is the Cannabis Lifestyle TV. And then we also have the Rob Vlogs, and spelling is down there, guys. But definitely check those out. I've watched both many times, and off air here, we'll talk about one of your Rob Vlogs things. Those are fun.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no worries. And on IG too. A lot of people are on Instagram. You can catch him at Cannabis Lifestyle TV. And also on the personal page is Rob_CLtv. So
well, there's also From the Stash, a show that you were on too. So
yes,
you do a bunch of stuff, man. A lot of content. I love making videos.
I appreciate that work, and I appreciate the work that you put in today for me and for all of the new growers out there. This is an excellent just one thing, because you don't want to get through your grow and ruin it in the cure and dry stage. So with that, I appreciate your time, and party on, Rob.
Party on, Dad.